This week, I'm joined by David Moore, Director of Enterprise Sales at Checkbox. David has spent nearly a decade selling legal technology to corporate legal departments. He's worked across MitraTech, Syrian, and then did something most enterprise salespeople wouldn't do. He left the safety of big platforms and joined Checkbox as their founding account executive in North America before they'd even raised their Series A. Three years later, Checkbox has raised $23 million. Seems like the right decision. In this episode, we talk about what it takes to open a market from nothing, why trust beats features in enterprise legal sales, and what Checkbox is building with the AI legal front door. Let's go.
Dave, let's start off with how does someone with 20 years sales end up spending the last decade selling technology to corporate legal departments?
Completely by accident, actually. Uh, I was in a different type of sale. A friend of mine that I'd worked with in another company called me up sort of out of the blue and said, "Hey, Dave, I've got an opportunity for you. Do you know what a solution consultant is?" And I said, "No idea, but would love to hear about it." And had no exposure to the legal technology market prior to that. But he said, "Hey, we've got this job. It's like the fun part of the job." For anybody that doesn't know, like solution consultant is maybe a lot of people think of it as the guy that does the demos or the person that does the demos for legal or for any software. But to me, it turned out that it was you could go in and do the fun part of the sale, which is just talking to people about business challenges and then using technology creatively and presenting a solution to the customer, and then sort of handing that over to the AE and wiping my hands of it afterwards for them to do the maybe less fun parts of the contracts and that sort of thing, taking it all the way through to close. And so I got my start totally accidentally, no exposure to legal tech before this.
Awesome. Okay. And so, of course, you were at MitraTech and then Syrian, and then you've joined Checkbox before they'd raised their Series A. So, really early doors. And that's kind of unusual because typically enterprise sales professionals sometimes go towards bigger platforms, not necessarily away from them. So, what made you see that Checkbox was the risk that was worth taking for you?
Yeah, well, I didn't initially, actually. So I got a reach out from somebody at Sequoia saying, "Hey, we've got this thing we'd love to interview for." And I noticed that it was like really a direct competition to what I was selling while I was at MitraTech. It felt a bit frontal. I ended up going to Syrian because at the time, CLM was like, I think 3, 4, 5 years ago was when I at least started to see CLM. Everybody was doing a CLM project. And we didn't have anything substantial at MitraTech at the time. And so I took a quick stint with Syrian. And then about almost a year later, I got back in touch with the founder because I had met him briefly. And I said, "Hey, this might be the right timing. Like, let's talk about maybe me joining Checkbox." And I think it was sort of like I was attracted to the product initially because when I was at MitraTech, no code workflow automation was my favorite thing to work on. It's this space where you can really be creative and build things with people. So I was attracted to the idea of the product, and I thought, let's explore this a little bit further. And then I think the thing that really hooked me on the company, and it's funny how like people that we interact with as a company have asked us since this, and people give the same answer. It's the people really that were the most attractive thing for me. When I met Evan, the co-founder and CEO, James, the co-founder COO, there was like a genuine energy, excitement around them about what they were doing. And I remember going through, some of the first interactions that I had with them, and you could just tell there was passion, excitement, culture. These people were sharp, fun, right? But like very sharp and had a unique sort of perspective. And look, I look for when I'm looking at a company, of course, you want to measure, do they have a good product? Are they solving a problem that I know about that I think I could be successful in helping them to solve? But I really look for strong leadership wherever I go because there's cool products all over the place. But what's really going to sort of dictate, are you going to be happy in your role? Are you going to be successful in the long term? is really strong leadership, in my opinion. So that's what I saw like pretty quick out of the gate with Checkbox.
Choosing a job at any point in your career is always a really tricky thing to do, and product fit is obviously really, really important. That leadership piece is so important as well. Was it a gut feeling you came away from it, just like these are the people I want to work with, or was there something more strategic in your assessment of which company would be right or what opportunity would be right?
Look, I think that no code workflow automation is a really it's a challenging product. Like the thing about no code that makes it special is the no code part. Like you have the user interface and like what the experience feels like to the end user and that sort of thing. But I think how you deploy no code workflow is the part that makes it special, and like how no code is it. And I think that's the genius of how they approached the studio within Checkbox that makes it approachable for non-technical people, I thought was really different than how I had seen it before. And so that was really, I think, attractive to me when I was first evaluating it. But again, I think it really came down to, and I don't know how like that came to me in some of the like short conversations that I had with the team. But I think it was like pretty evident right off the bat that these were people that cared about my opinion. So they would ask me questions and then truly listen to what I was saying. I know on one call I was asked like, "Hey, let's have a conversation about AI." At the time, it was like sort of just exploding GAI, and you could tell like they were leaning in when I was talking about ideas that I had. They were leaning in, and then sure enough, several weeks after I got hired, they did a hackathon and showed a couple of them to me. And I was like, whoa, like that's super, super, super cool. So just, it's probably pretty difficult for that to come through in just a couple short calls in an interview process, but somehow it did. And I just felt like, all right, these, I don't know, I felt like these are my people. So.
That's beautiful. Love it. And when you joined 3 years ago, my understanding is that you had very few US customers and not really kind of a sales professionals aiming at the US. Walk me through what that first 6 months looked like, how you're actually opening up a market from nothing. What was going on there?
Yeah, it's tough, right? As a salespeople, we want to be able to, tell stories, reference clients, and give people the confidence that we've sort of been there, done that, and we had it, just not in the region that I was trying to open. Right, there was a foothold in APAC, and they had a handful of customers, but you're sort of like creating that market as you go, and so. The first 6 months for me, I think were probably non-traditional compared to if I were to go work for an established company. We had to figure it out. There wasn't a playbook there that we could point to and say, that's repeatable. Like, let's just do that. Even the product itself, no code workflow automation, which is primarily what we did at the time. It's shifted since then, but no code workflow automation can be applied to so many different use cases. And so you can't just go in where, your product is one of 5 main products in the market, each with their slightly different approach. It can be very different how you deploy no code from one company to another. And so, you had to kind of know that. I had the benefit of having sold that type of category for the 5 or 6 previous years before joining Checkbox. And so it wasn't, let's, get really acquainted with the product and like the pitch decks and just learn that and go out to market. It was like we dove headfirst into deals and started selling right away. And I think probably I said it sort of, like I said, I had a unique background that enabled me to do that. But it was tough. And I found myself, of course, reporting direct to a CEO is not the same as going in and you've got all kinds of layers of leadership that can support you. Some people that's pretty daunting. I was lucky enough to have a really strong sales facing CEO, super empathetic, fantastic with the customers, and probably like was really neat actually. The first time I met him was at we went to go do a conference in San Francisco. And he threw me right into the fire. He's like, hey, you're going to run this thing. We hadn't even planned it except for what we talked about at lunch that day. And I could see the relief on his face when I started getting going because he's like, oh, finally we've got somebody that can help. Like, I've been doing all these myself, flying back and forth from Australia. Finally, we've got something in help, and our team, like together as a team, it worked. So I don't know, it was fun. It was like a very different but super fun first 6 months.
And you told me something when we spoke before, that your clients tell you that your software is really good, but there's obviously lots of players in the market, lots of good software out there, but they buy from you anyway. So what is actually happening in those deals, and why is it they're buying from Checkbox?
Yeah, I think that one thing I've realized about the legal technology market. So the buyer for legal technology and corporate legal is the legal operations team, and of course, you've got other stakeholders involved, like anything else. But the legal operations community is very tight knit. Everybody knows each other. They're collaborative. And so as you're looking at that, and I think I'm this type of seller anyways, I'm more of a solutions guy. That's partly my background. But I think Checkbox really seeks to understand what are you trying to solve for and be helpful in solving that. And I think that really, I hope that really comes through for our clients when they're interacting with us, that we're there to be helpful. We're there to provide guidance in addition to, we're not just trying to like jam a product into a fit that maybe isn't there. And we're happy to tell people if we don't think that it's the right solution for them. Hey, there's another solution over here. I've had people come back to me or move departments because it's sort of incestuous. The community will go from this company to that company. We might not be the right fit here, but maybe we're the right fit there. And if you're taking that approach of I'm just here to achieve a win, then that comes through, I think, in your interactions. And I think people have known Checkbox through both like the sales process, but also in terms of our reputation, how we take care of clients on the back end. Because especially right when you don't have like this giant community starting off in North America, we need everybody to be saying good things so that when they report back through the market, whether it's officially asked for a reference through me or whether they're doing their own checks, that's coming back. They're consistent in how they treat you through sales all the way through the end part of the process. That's what's going to make the difference. And I think probably right now you've got, between the newness of generative AI and the disruption that we've had there, all these players that have popped up between, I think and I don't mean this in a bad way, but general immaturity of legal. We've been laggards in terms of how we've adopted and deployed technology compared to the other departments in the org. I think everybody's probably experienced first or second hand a deployment that didn't net out the results that they were looking for, or maybe was harder to go through than they had anticipated. And I think people are looking for partners that they know are going to support them, not just a good set of features. So that's where I think that's come in. We've had people say to us, hey, your tech is great, but the way that we're treated by your people is the thing that makes the difference. And I love that because that's the thing that I can control to a certain degree. So.
And it shows you how important that human element still is in the world of AI, and the products we're creating, and that's really cool that Checkbox have got that reputation. And I know that you sell to legal operations teams through large corporates. I'd imagine, tell me if I'm wrong, that they're probably quite cautious technology buyers, and I guess some of that caution might come from being burnt before by previous vendors or suppliers. How do you earn trust from a buyer whose objection revolves around the fact they were let down by someone previously?
Oh, it's so tough. Because it's like you can tell when somebody's been burned before. A lot of times they're upfront about it. They're like, hey, this is what happened. So we're just a little bit cautious. Forgive us. I think it's by being willing to jump through whatever hoops that they throw at you, be willing to be helpful with that, guide them, right? I had an opportunity recently where one of the gals said, hey, we don't want somebody to just come in here and say yes to everything, right? If you do that, it's probably a red flag for us because we know that you can't do everything. And so help us understand where are you a little bit weak? Even if it's, and we know sometimes it's this, it's a struggle internally because you want to be able to say yes to everything because you're in a compete. and there's a lot of pressure to make numbers and build new clients and stuff like that. But you got to be upfront, and I think if people respect it when you say, "Hey, I don't have that yet, and it's coming." You might say, "Hey, I don't have that, and it's not coming for another 9 months. Like, are you comfortable with that? Is that going?" Because that's what builds the trust. It's also about doing what you say you're going to do. So if you come into a situation and you say, "I'll have that proposal out to you by tomorrow morning," get it out tomorrow morning, because people are looking for how do you behave in an evaluation is going to be representative, and probably more so than how you behave when you're actually deploying. And if you miss deadlines, if you forget to follow back with the questions, you say, "Look, let's put a pin in that, we'll follow up," and you forget to do that, I think savvy buyers are remembering that. They're notating, did you follow through? And that's also a trust building thing. So it's like transparency and follow through are the things I think that really drive towards that trust element.
So we've talked there about building trust, being transparent, and we've talked about providing that human touch in terms of that great service that goes along with a great product. Those things aside, what else have you learned actually that in-house legal teams want when they're making buying decisions, which go-to-market teams typically misunderstand or get wrong?
Oof, that's a good question. I think it's one of the things that we were just talking about. I think they want to be guided. Like, if you think about legal teams, their job is legal. Their job is to protect and enable the company as they're going to market, right? Their job is not fundamentally to buy software. And where they're experiencing this challenge once, and I think that, again, legal operations has a fantastic and really supportive collaborative community that they can go to. As a vendor, I see this, and I have these conversations across all kinds of verticals at different levels of the legal organization. I've got way more perspective than the average business buyer on the types of challenges that they're facing and how they've been solved by our clients. And so I think that companies are really looking for, tell me what your other clients have done that is successful. Tell me where I should be looking out for something that's going to bite me and cause me some harm in my reputation because I deployed something in a way that could have been avoided, or I bit off more than I can chew. And I think if you can bring like tangible examples of, here's how XYZ company did this, here's the time it took for them to do it, here's the resourcing. We're seeing like pretty big shifts right now, I think, in how legal teams are being resourced. It used to be that like legal ops wasn't even necessarily a discipline within a corporate legal. Now we're seeing companies that are hyper growth, smaller companies starting off, legal ops is their third hire. They're seeing changes in the skill sets of people. So hiring on people that have more technical skill sets, data minded people. So, they're looking for who would I need? How do I need to sort of staff or prepare to deploy this successfully? And we've started to notice like trends and leading practices in how our clients are doing that and where they need help, maybe from a vendor or from a partner where there's a managed service element that can fill in the gaps or give them extra bandwidth to help them achieve their goals in the time that they want to achieve it. So I think there's that. They're looking for our experience. They're looking for guidance and people that can come with like tangible things that they can latch onto. I think they find valuable.
Do you think that there's much different between selling enterprise solutions within legal tech to the standard enterprise SaaS seller, or do you think really it's the same kind of beast?
I don't know is the honest answer, Paul, because I'm not used to selling like broad enterprise tools like operating systems and I would say that probably just a little to my previous comment around legal being like a laggard in terms of technology adoption. We haven't historically gotten the budgets and that sort of thing. And so I think there may be more maturity in other departments for how they've acquired technology in the past, how they've deployed it. I think there is something new, certainly, that is happening where you've got for the first time, from the C-suite level on down, pressure to go out and buy AI tools. And I think that that's a challenge for the legal tech market, because I think the buyers are going, okay, I have to tick a box here for AI. And what do I do? There's so much noise. How do I figure out where is the place that I should be applying AI and what's going to actually net out results and not bite me later? And so I think that's the part that's probably really challenging for them right now, and what may be different. Actually, that's probably across the board. I would bet every department in the organization right now is struggling with, like, what's the place where I deploy this? So I don't know. I don't know if it's all that different.
You told me previously that Checkbox wants to cement its status as the category leader for intake and matter management. So what does that actually require in the next 12 months? What has to go right? What do you need to achieve?
I think scale, velocity, visibility, success in delivery. I think, again, this community is small and tight knit. When we have people come to us and say, "Hey, we've been hearing good things about Checkbox," or "We saw a talk that your CEO did that was just super insightful and engaging for us, and like we'd love to learn more." This category, I think, hasn't been a category historically. When I first started, it felt to me like, okay, there's enterprise legal management, and this is sort of the idea of it is, let's have a platform that does almost everything for the legal department. But it had a heavy focus on spend management, and matter management always kind of came second. And intake was all forms driven when we were starting to look at it. So legal as a department hasn't really had, it's a demand driven function. It hasn't had a demand based operating system for it, right? It's been focused on different things or solving niche problems, I would say. And so this is a new category, and only with the emergence of GAI has it unlocked the ability to meet the business in the places where they already work. And so I think it's a category that is just being established. And of course, Checkbox has been pushing the boundaries on some of those capabilities and sort of setting the vision for it. So to become a category leader, it's a combination of, like, on the top of funnel side, we got to be everywhere. We have to be leading the thought leadership on these topics and demonstrating how our clients are actually deploying the technology successfully. And then on the backside, it's got to be our clients out there sort of discussing, here's how I've deployed Checkbox to do X, or that sort of thing, talking on our behalf. But there's been an internal sort of like saying, it's like everything everywhere all the time. And that's sort of our approach to how to cement ourselves in the category.
Final question. If you're somebody who's thinking about getting into legal tech sales, what is something they should know that nobody typically tells them before they take the job?
Legal technology, to me, I feel like what we've seen in strong reps within our group is either an existing understanding of the domain or a thirst for like learning about it. Because the faster, I think probably everybody's going to come into a role like this with some kind of skill set fundamentally as a salesperson. But one of the things I think that accelerates people, because this is such a solution-driven sale, we're not selling a widget that's the same as the other 4 widgets, just a little bit different in this way. We truly have a sales motion at Checkbox, and in this category, I would say, that requires creativity. You have to be interested in understanding the problem and the people that you're helping. And within legal, it's like there's all kinds of practice areas. And so people that are willing to go out and really watch tape, understand, here are the actual activities, here's the nature of what this particular practice area and team does within the context of legal across the board, I think those people will excel beyond their peers. It's like that knowledge, because I think that's what enables you to add value during the sales cycle and truly guide somebody like a legal team in buying some technology.
Dave, Thank you so much. I'll be rooting for you and for Checkbox this year. And thank you for being a very patient man and allowing us to do half of this conversation twice because I messed up the recording first time round. So I appreciate you.
Good luck to you as well, Paul. Take care.